Happy January, or almost January, depending on when you're watching this. Hello, if you haven't been here before, my name's Erin, and I like to set up bullet journals on camera so that you can watch for your entertainment, I guess. I think we're all pretty excited to have 2020 behind us, and I'm definitely keen to get into January, so here's some of what I'm going to be using to set up for this month. I've already gone ahead and drawn everything out in pencil. I've taken every purple and gold variation of pen that I could find in my little stash. Some are Faber-Castell Pitt Artist brush pens. There is one Tombow dual tip brush pen. I'm going to use the knot brush end, and a Sharpie pen. I also have a little stash of ink pads for stamping with, which maybe is a little bit of foreshadowing as to what's coming soon. One is a brassy kind of gold, one is purple, and one is black. I'm not going to use the black one. Spoilers, haha. And a little selection of stamps here. I bought these ones on Wish. They are silicone stamps that mount to a little acrylic block like this. That's great because you can see through it, and it's always good to have some paper towel and some water on hand for this kind of thing, just so you can clean up after yourself and try not to make too much of a mess. I feel like a mess is kind of inevitable where stamps are involved, but you know, just something to keep things as tidy as possible as you go. I'm also going in with a ruler this time, which is not very typical of me. I also used a ruler in my 2021 overall setup for the beginning of this brand new book, so I guess I'm just feeling very straight lines at the moment. I don't really do cover pages very often, but I was looking for a way to do my calendar page and something opposite it that would lead me into January feeling really pretty, I guess. I wanted it to be something aesthetic but not too difficult. I don't like to get too involved with sketching and drawing and painting in my bullet journal wherever I can help it. Some months I'm in the mood for it, but most of the time I'm not. And I found this calendar layout. I just searched, I think it was bullet journal monthly spreads on Google, and this one came up. It was pinned on Pinterest. I will pop the name of the original artist up on the screen here for you. What is really interesting about this calendar layout is that the days of the week go across the vertical, whereas the weeks go across the horizontal, so it's kind of flipped as to how I would usually draw a month. But I like how it works on a vertical page like this. Just going to wipe off my ruler because with any kind of texture situation marker, sometimes that can get pretty smudgy if there's bits of ink left on your ruler and you're sliding it around the page. Going to go ahead and add in the number for each day here, just checking that I haven't transferred any marker onto my hand, which is great. Nothing has come off so far, which is very nice to see. January is the second month of summer here in Australia. A lot of people don't really stop and think about how Aussies have Christmas in summer, which is, you know, a bit wild. So I tend to go into January. I'm not really a summer person. I'd rather be cold. So I tend to go in leaning more towards cooler tones so that I can not be reminded of the summer outside waiting for me when I open the door or the window. Last year I went for something very blue and serene, and this year it's still pretty cool toned. I wouldn't say that these are especially warm golds. I definitely was feeling something pretty. So I'm just going to use a bit of paper to mask off the areas where I don't want my stamps to end up, and I'm going to use them to decorate some of the negative space around my calendar here. I'm really enjoying those bold, thick lines because it definitely can then look a bit 3D. The calendar I was inspired by had this blank space where you don't need the extra boxes for days. It had the box around the outside of it. I think if I do this again, I'll probably leave that section out so that the decoration really pops out from behind it, if I'm decorating at that point. And the facing page was a goals page, and it had a cute little envelope situation that the goals were springing up out of, like you'd opened a letter. It's very, very cute. I couldn't be bothered drawing out the envelope, and I'm leading into my stamps here because that's a very quick and easy way to get a lot of detail down on a page very quickly. So I've ditched the envelope and I'm just adding some more of my stamps along the bottom. I'm going to go mostly gold with my stamps with a few little purple accents. As I mentioned before, I got these stamps from Wish. They were very cheap. They will probably take a long time to ship to wherever you are in the world at the moment because of how the world is right now. They came in a really diverse pack. There's butterflies and there's feathers and there's different kinds of florals and leaves, and I have used them a couple of times before. I can pop the last time I used these guys up in the corner for you. I used them to make a bit of a wreath for December last year? The year before, 2019, December 2019. I have to specify because we're so close to New Year's now that it's hard to determine when you say last year what you mean. I've had to washi tape my purple stamp pad shut because otherwise the lid comes off, and I just feel like that's really dangerous. And I think I also used them in March of 2020 as well. Can't can't remember, but I'll pop a link up in the cards for you so you can see some other stampy action if you'd like to. Just keeping some printer paper on hand to mask out areas where I don't want the stamps to end up. I've divided my goals up into, I run 2 businesses. One is my wedding photography business, which is Erin Smith Photography, which is ESP. And then I've got Butter, which is another business that I run with a friend of mine, and just a section for life goals as well. I don't usually do goals month to month, but I think that would be a good thing to do. Keep you on track, keep you focused, keep you checking back to your overall goals page at the beginning of your journal if that's a thing that you do. I definitely do yearly goals. So I'm going to test that out for this month and see if it gives me any mojo. Hopefully some mojo to be had. It's a bit tricky to get stamps to go over the break in the page, across the binding, but I'm not too bothered by an imperfect stamp. I think that's totally fine. One really good tip is to wipe off the excess ink from around the stamp before you put it down on the page, and that's going to keep you from getting those kind of ghosty, not actually part of the stamp imprints on your page, which is always nice. I'm just going to add in some headings now. This is a gold Faber-Castell Pitt Artist Metallic pen. It's definitely a lot more yellow and maybe a little bit more green than the gold that I've been using thus far. It doesn't bother me too much that it's not the exact same gold as my stamp pad. I think it still goes with the color scheme. And then I'm just using the knot brush end of the Tombow dual tip brush pen to add my January title right over the top of those stamps. Still going for a brush pen effect by adding a little bit of thickness to the downstrokes, but I didn't want to go in with the brush pen in this instance because I really like the look of just the solid. I feel like I get more control with a solid tipped pen sometimes. So that's what I'm leaning towards at the moment. And I'm just going to use some of my printer paper to blot in between these pages as I turn the page. I wasn't sure if anything was going to transfer otherwise, so I thought I'd better do that just to be safe. This next page is for habits and gratitude tracking. I'm not really changing this layout up too much. I've used this in my past few setups and it's been working really well for me. I am modifying it a little bit. I was drawing out a whole row with lots of little lines so that I could color in a box for each habit as I filled it off every day, and that was taking a really long time to set up and making my hand really tired. So I'm trying something different this time where each habit is just going to have a line and I'll pop a dot above the line when I fulfill the habit for each day. And that's a much more efficient way to lay all of this out without having to cramp up my hand and write way too many numbers or draw way too many lines. And it's also going to go really nicely with my straight line, very minimalist kind of sleek look that I'm going for this month. So that's always a nice thing when it all ties in together. I hope you guys are enjoying my Christmas nails. I'm not super obsessed with them. I did them myself. They're okay. They kind of look like Pokeballs, and I feel like that's a redeeming quality, but they're not as nice as I had hoped. I'm considering painting over them with some gold, because at the time that I'm filming this, Christmas hasn't happened yet, but we'll see. We'll see. Maybe I'm too lazy and maybe they'll stay as they are. So I've split my habit tracker into 2 sections. The top part is just for general life habits. I think I have up by 7, 3 meals, exercise, floss, learn, and make for the top row, and then the bottom is for skincare. So I've got vitamin C, BHA, azelaic acid, and my Vanisher, which is a microneedling device, so that I can track how often I'm doing all of the things, make sure I'm not overloading my skin, make sure I'm trying to stay on top of all of the other stuff that's not skin. Just adding a little bit of a really light purple accent to bring in some color to this page. I wanted to keep this one pretty sparse because a lot of information goes on this one. This little light purple brush pen, lilac color, is from Faber-Castell. It's a Pitt Artist brush pen. And I'm going to go back in with the Tombow for all of my headings on this page as well, just erasing before I put them down because I didn't really go in too technical with the pencil. It was just to give me an idea of where things went. I've even kind of moved my whole layout over, I think by 1 box, maybe 2 boxes on this page. And on the previous page, I also did the same thing on the calendar. I decided to move it over by a box when I got started with the ink. So in case you're wondering why my lines don't exactly match up with my pencil line sometimes, I'll look at something once I've drawn it out and go, oh, that's a bit wonky. I could do better than that. And then I fix it when I go in to put the ink down. As long as you remember not to draw right over your lines, it can work. I'm really enjoying this layout. I think you could absolutely set up exactly this without the stamps, and it would be very minimal and beautiful and easy and a bit quicker than it was for me to set up with all of this stamping and wiping and so on and so forth. I'm not going to go too nuts with the stamps on this one. I just want to keep a bit of consistency, I guess, across the theme all the way through. Well, not all the way through, but as much as I can. So I'm just going to pop a few very choice stamps down on this one, bringing in the purple and the gold in a few different places. I don't want them to compete with the space that I need to add my gratitude. I just usually put 1 or 2 words of gratitude down every day, which is much easier than a whole sentence that I have done in the past. Both ways are really good and work really well. Just sometimes I forget to fill things out and I can't remember what I did on a specific day to go back and add in the gratitude. Not a lot of bleeding going on, so I'm not going to worry about that blotting sheet this time around. My next section, usually I would do a double page spread for my expense tracker, but I'm trying something different here. I'm consolidating it down. I have less pages in this notebook than I'm used to. I've moved from a Leuchtturm 1917, which I've been using for the past 3 years of bullet journaling, into a Tsuki Notebook Therapy Tsuki softcover journal instead. And in case you're wondering, I have it in a little Mimco notebook cover that was a wonderful birthday gift from some friends in 2019. It's tricky to find a notebook that fits into them, so I'm really happy to have this one working out the way it is. I'm still doing 2 columns worth of expense tracking, but I'm condensing them down onto 1 page. So these columns are just for item, cost, and category. So everything that I buy, I'll write it down here. I don't need to be too descriptive about the thing that I buy because I also have bank statements. So, if I really need to go back and check, I can do that. But I thought this would be a fun way to save some space, condense things down a little bit, and also make room for an awkward single spread on the opposite side, which is for my first few days really of January. Usually I like to have a whole week on a spread at a time. So if there are a few days left at the end of a month, I'll move them into the beginning of the next section or whatever. But in this instance, because it's a brand new book, it's a brand new year, it's the first month of that brand new year, I thought it would be nice to have, the whole year together. And I think there's some like superstitions around that. My grandma used to say you couldn't put up your calendar for the following year until the year had started or it was bad luck or something like that. I don't really believe in superstitious stuff, but it stays with you, doesn't it? Even if you don't really believe it, you still think about it sometimes. I wanted to get my stamps coming in behind this little layout this is going to be my first, not quite a weekly, 3 days out of a weekly on the right side here. So I wanted to definitely get some stamp decoration in, but I wasn't sure how to do that without it messing with the boxes where I was going to write all of my to-do list stuff. So I masked out each one of those boxes with a bit of paper, just stuck it down with some washi tape really gently so it's not going to peel anything off. I didn't have any troubles taking them off, which is great. And then I can go ahead and stamp as I like. I did get a little bit of a ghosty stamp there. That doesn't worry me too much. Keep an eye on the left side of the page here because I didn't realize while this was happening that I had a mass of gold ink on my thumb that it's going to end up transferring probably here. Yeah, there it is. Onto the expenses page and the previous page as well a little bit. I didn't even realize it first and then I was like, oh no, what is this muddy thumbprint over here? Oh no. Not a huge deal. This layout is only going to get me through a month, so I'm not that worried about it. It bothered me a little bit, so once I realized, I tried to erase it actually first of all with a regular eraser rubber thing, and that didn't work. So I got in there with some correction tape instead when that didn't do the trick. I've also got a little purple smudge from where I did the butterfly on the other side, which I think is just off the stamp block, and not a huge deal, as I said, but I thought I'd go in with some correction tape anyway and just tone it down, bring it back to something whiter. It's not exactly the same color as the page, but I think it does make it less noticeable, so it's all good. And then I grabbed another one of my metallic Faber-Castell pens. I always forget with this one because the outside packaging is this beautiful lilac color, but when you write it down, it's almost a hot pink. It's very, very much more towards the pink leaning side. So it doesn't exactly go with my color scheme, but I'm committed and it's down now, and I don't think it's terrible either, so, it's going to stay there where it is. I thought I'd get in there with a purple brush pen and just add a drop shadow to each of these boxes to try and bring a bit more of the color scheme together, since I didn't do a lot of stamping on that page. Absolutely no decoration on the expenses side because there's going to be a lot of data on that page once it's done, and I didn't want to compete with that. And now I'm just going forward with a box layout again, very similar to that condensed version of the 3 days left over of the first week. But this one's just going to have 4 boxes on the left page and 3 boxes on the right side, and that's going to be my first full week of January, so starting from the 4th. When I get to my weeklies, I definitely get lazy, and if I'm going to set out a whole month's worth of them in one go. Usually I'll turn the camera off and I'll finish up the rest of my weeklies just off camera because you don't need to see me do the same thing another 3 times. So I'm going in freehand here. I've ditched my ruler. I'm just going straight in with the kind of wonky, sort of straight, a little bit more character lines, adding the drop shadow again just like I did before with the same purple pen, and then I'm just going in with the gold Faber-Castell Pitt artist pen and adding the name and the number for every day along the top. I decided to go left to right all the way across the spread. Sometimes I'm not sure whether I want to go, right side complete and then the left side, but this worked this time. And I thought it needed a little something extra, so I just added a border with that lilac color again, try and bring all of the colors together. There is a little space down there on the right hand side, but if I decide to fill that up later, I guess I'll let you know on my Instagram or something like that. And here's the final flip through. Very chill layout, very accessible. Hopefully something in here that you can use for your own bullet journal for January 2021 or another month. It doesn't have to be January 2021, it can be whenever you like. Thank you so much for watching my silly little video. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you'd like to find me on other social media, I am on Instagram at erinsmith.art for bullet journaling stuff. I also have a photography Instagram if you would like to stalk that as well. All the information's down in the description. Let me know what colors you're using for January because I'm guessing that the weather is probably quite different for some of you around different parts of the world. I'll be back really soon with my full 2020 journal flip through. If that's something you'd like to take a look at, then maybe hit subscribe so that you can know when I have that video up and ready for you to watch. I hope January treats you famously, and I will catch you guys again very soon. Bye!